Once again, new project. Old school caddy with the Daytons. Gangsta. Now we're going to go ahead and actually throw an air ride system on this thing. Just arrived. We got boxes of parts, dual pumps, single tank. We might add one more tank to it. All lines, bags, hardware, accessories, etc. Anyway, let me go ahead and get to it. But first things first, I'm cleaning this trunk up. We just kind of spray it black, make it look a little cleaner. Gotta do it right for the homie. Alright, we just did a simple little thing with a couple cans of Flex Seal. A little bit of texture to it. Man, not a perfect, but it looks a lot better. Everything's painted. Ain't all dirty, greasy looking. Got a little texture to it. Looks pretty good. Bear with me. Start mounting up pumps, air tanks. Setting up the bags in the wheel areas. We'll get this thing in the air. Next thing's next. We got our wire wheels. Yank off your spinners. Remember, the passenger side is reverse of the driver. Yeah, honestly, most of you guys, anybody with wire wheels will know that. These are all loose, ready to go. We got a lead hammer this round. Woo! Normally I use a rubber mallet. I've been even had to use a 2x4 with a heavy hammer before, but whatever works without scratching them. We're going to be putting our bags in right where them springs are located, right there and right there. Probably honestly going to clean up some of this stuff. Give it a quick little tap with some paint since I'm already in here. Bear with me. We'll do rear and then we'll do front. Mount pumps, tank, all that fancy stuff. Got you covered. Bear with me. Keep watching. Alright, I'm keeping my hair in this video. Anyway, we just laid out everything. We're going to figure out the layout, where all the lines reach. Just make sure we got everything. Wires, air hoses, fittings, everything else. Breaker. Yeah, just kind of everything, whatnot. Go through it. Make sure we got it all. Little air filters. Just everything I could think of. Just make sure that, man, just kind of check everything out. Kind of come up with a placement in the trunk. We're going to make it happen. Bear with me. I'm going to start putting some stuff in, fitting it out. I'm going to bolt these pumps in with the fattest rubber grommets I can find. We're going to make them as quiet as possible. And find a good power source too. I'm not going to rig it up just to make it work. This is for a boy. I'm trying to make sure it's right. Bear with me. Alright, back at the, I'm probably going to say this wrong. Viair Viagra air on steroids. Here we go. Anyway, going through, kind of just separated all the fittings. Man, I can't find instructions in any of these boxes, and some stuff comes like this. Didn't find anything online. I'm just gonna process of eliminate it. I know we're gonna use 4 of these, 1 per bag each corner, so that'll be 4 of those. We've got 8 air dumps, and basically 1 will pump up and 1 will dump per wheel. That'll be all 8. We got a couple T's and whatnot. I know those will tie in differently. The air pump's pretty simple. I know we got 2 fittings, and the way the trunk is, it'll be kind of tight on this side. This is upside down right now. But the ends of the air pumps will basically thread in to our fittings right there. And I love this Blue Monster tape. It's like the most amazing stuff ever. And we'll be wiring this up on a different segment. Right now we're going to work with placement and figuring out fitting of everything. And you only have 1 pressure switch. And if you look at them, they're labeled. This is a 200 PSI. Probably 170 on the low before it kicks the pumps on. All of these are going to use a relay system. So you're not going to be running through a direct switch. Lucky for me, I know what I'm doing with wiring those up because I've done a lot of hydraulics. Very similar process. Power to the middle pole on every one of these switches. One side will be a pair of raise and a lower, or basically pump and dump, but in an air valve. So not a big thing. We got our T's. We'll tie in a few things and probably put 2 dumps off a Y on each one. So that'd be 4 dumps to pump up, and then we'll put 4 dumps to lower down. So bear with me, I'll get some more video together. We'll keep on going. All right, we're back at it this morning. Simply putting some of the fittings, whatnot, in the airbag setups. This is cut out for that. Yeah, it's crazy. No instructions with these things. And then simply we'll be bolting those down. Hold on, if you can see, now they just lined up, and those are bolt holes right there. Don't have to use all 5. I'm going to use the outer because those are the best for what the application I got. These came with these little stubby guys, but honestly, if you think about it, by the time it goes through 1/8" metal, this thing's only grabbing 1/4 inch. Our holes are about 3/4, 7/8 inch deep on these, so I'm going to run a 1 inch with a washer anyway. These weren't provided with those. Make a lot better hold. And also, I recommend Loctiting those as well. I've worked with a lot of hydraulics and air ride stuff. These things do work loose over time. They're suspension pieces. A little dab of Loctite will do you right. Bear with me. We'll keep going. We're going to get this all done up. Got all the wheels yanked off. These are my stands, so I can actually take the shocks off, drop this down, make some room to get the whole rear air suspension pieces in. Some, well, not many. This old Cadillac did have, in those 2 holes there and there, had a level, basically it's a gauge to tell this thing for the factory air ride to go up and down. But simply remove that because you're not going to need it. And beside, the air ride on this is going to be way more than what that thing's set up to pivot anyway. On the front ones, we probably are going to end up popping the upper ball joint so we can get this down a lot lower, removing the shocks first. And make sure you do something similar. And actually being on the ground works really good on those. But I do have these stands, which I quite often use. Well, bear with me. We'll get these next pieces in and I'll keep going. All right, on to the next piece. These little axle setups weld right to the top of the axle. So this thing will be sitting like that. And the axle goes this way, obviously. So anyway, you bolt it on, like I said, once again, at least Loctite. I put a little longer threaded bolts. I did not like the outcome of the hole over here. The fitting on that thing is riding mighty low, and actually was about the top of my thumb, so it would have been directly rubbing on that. And let me show you the comparison of why I didn't go with it. That hole really didn't allow for much right there. It does have the hole for the fitting to come through from the airbag, but this right here would have definitely rubbed on the airline. I'm going for longevity on everything I do, by the way. For anybody I do the work for, I try to do it right. There wasn't much online about doing this, so as a fabricator, I took it upon myself and did a few extra things. So these are the rear setups. I'm going to get the other one set up, and then we'll go ahead and show you how we put them in, weld everything on, and just keep on going. All right, back at it again. What we're doing right now is removing the rear shocks. Kind of going to be in the way anyway, so I'm just taking out all the hardware, the shock. Pop that off the mount. And we're going to go ahead and get the top 2 bolts, which are like superior rusted in. Hopefully they don't take a grinder by the gas tank. There we go. Bear with me, I'll keep on going. All right, we are digging deep. Just removed the springs, shocks, a little air valve for the leveling on the factory. Okay, next step, we're going to clean this all up on both sides. Oh, let me get in there. This whole thing right here, this whole piece is just slightly welded on. Watch out for your brake line right there. Just bend it out of the way. There's a couple of clips here you can open. That one and open that one, and just kind of bend it away while you're working with this. And if you look at it, we got a weld right here. And crusty there. That might be the dirt holding it together, man. Anyway, we're gonna pull that all off, and this piece right here will be the new piece that sets on there, and we're gonna try to square that up by eye the best we can. And think about your travel as well, going up and down. Make sure it don't interfere with anything. Do the best you can, eyeball it, and we'll just do this piece by piece. Bear with me. Keep on watching. Alright, what I've done here is removed the whole mount for the rear spring. Just cut along the edges on the welds, this side and the lower side down here on my middle finger for flipping people off. Anyway, it did sit right about there. We removed all the welds, grinded everything clean. Get some nice clean metal, because when you go to weld it, you're definitely going to want a good contact. So this one is next. We'll be yanking that off, cutting the welds, stripping it up, cleaning all the metal. Here with the camera flashes, my light. There we go. But, there you go. Let's keep on moving. All right, moving on. We've got our bags just sitting in there, both sides. And like I said, make sure your routing's good. I was gonna go in with the airline on that, but it run it right into the exhaust. So this one's actually a tight fit as well. We're gonna see what we can do about turning this one around. And then there is actually a center nut up through here. Hold on a second. There you go. I can get in there. Well, anyway, the nut is inside there. It's kind of a tight squeeze. I was thinking about taking a little, just notch that, and not gonna hurt anything. And then these are gonna have to weld on, but we're gonna make sure they're level, the pathways are clear, and everything lines up good first. All right, here we go again. Crawl my old ass up in here, and what I did, I wanted to actually create an access to tighten the top of these airbags. So I basically, the extra hole, which I'm gonna clean up that a little bit right there for the burrs on the edges. These are the mounts for the tops of the air shocks, but also we have room to simply get a wrench in there and work with them. I know it's a little bit of a hole in the trunk, but best way I could probably come up with this without fighting getting my hand in a place it didn't belong. Catch STDs like that. All right, here we are. We've got the top sides mounted. Let me get some light up in there. They fit really well on the cup setup actually, and all that's bolted up by a single bolt on the very top inside of there. And we did end up changing our airline to a straight fitting to shoot straight up into the trunk. Same thing on that side. Just getting your hand up in there is almost impossible. But now we've got our little jack pushing these up. We're gonna go ahead, we cleaned, grinded, completely took off all the old welds on the old mounts to the springs, and go ahead and give it hell now, putting it back together. And that's where we're at. Just eyeball level them, sure they're decent, weld them on good. But yeah, we do what we can. I was putting these old airbags on this old caddy. All right, now we're digging into the front. I'm gonna take off our upper ball joint. Cotter pin's already out. Our sway bar we will not really need anymore per se. Get a little more adjustment. And we're gonna remove the front springs. We just dropped the front shock right at the bottom. 2 bolts, 1/2 inch I believe, 1 bolt on top. And we'll be coming in through the top, that side anyway, and setting up the mount for the top of this newer cup for the airbag. Oh, let's go ahead and bust the upper ball joint off, and then simply put a jack under the bottom side, and because you're gonna have a lot of tension from that spring right there. If that thing pops apart, you'll see what I'm talking about. It'll hurt you. Pay attention. And put a jack right under it. Put some pressure against it, bust the upper ball joint loose, and then we slowly let the jack down and stay out of the way of that unless you use spring compressors or something similar. Give it a go. I'll keep on filming in a minute. All right, we just kind of got everything situated. I don't mind this. I'll put a bungee on it, hang it up in a minute. We took our caliper off actually to create a little more movement for the spindle to drop a little lower, give me a little more room. Uncovered the upper ball joint grease, welded on with nothing but grease, nasty. But, there you go. We're popping that off right now. We'll get that down. Don't worry about the lower one. Pulled off our sway bar and links and everything else. This is actually going to come off. There's 4 bolts on the front of the frame that hold it on. Give it more travel, movement, side to side action anyway. With airbags, it'll work better. Well, next thing's next. We'll finish popping that ball joint bolt. Good old pickle fork tool. A couple smacks with a hammer. Sometimes heat. Try not to melt the boot, mess up the grease, but I'm sure this one leaks all over anyway. Aside that, let's get this pop loose. Alright, we've now dropped the lower A-arm, control arm. Spindle's kind of sitting there set up. Spring still has a pretty good substantial amount of pressure on it. Like I said, we'll be removing the sway bar in a second. But be careful. I dropped this all the way down with a jack. And we're going to go ahead and lightly bring our lift up just a little bit. But honestly, these are very good to do on the ground because you've got a floor jack that's it's a lot more sturdy than doing it up in the air. So we're going to pop that spring out, kind of figure out our layout of where this cup and new airbag setup's going to fit in here the best without rubbing our line out. So we'll keep on going. Okay, we got our spring out. Everything kind of slightly cleaned some grease out of it. That thing will be going right up in the hole on the front end on the frame. We're going to go ahead and put our airbags, cups, and everything else together. Move that guy and keep on moving. Ball joint rip boot, but feels really tight. I'm going to go ahead and roll with it without replacing it. Not trying to spend $1 million. Just make sure it's halfway right. Alright, we got everything kind of ready to go finally. Airbag line is ran through the existing shock mount hole, which is kind of actually perfect on this Cadillac. I had to modify a few small things to make this all work out. Bottom cup goes in there for the lower, upper up there. Actually, I had to run to the hardware store and get a few fittings. This kit came with 490s, but only 2 straights, and I need a straight shot to come up right through the frame. We ended up removing the mounting bolt on the upper end, and what I'm going to do on this application, my best bet is when this is in place, tack it here, tack it there. And why I'm going to do that, so it's removable but yet solid. But this bolt actually runs into a really odd spot on the frame where I literally couldn't drill a hole if I wanted to, and besides it's at a V shape in the vertical position, so therefore it just won't work. But every car is different. Most of the time those are mountable by the shock hole, but this one is very offset, so it works perfect out for the airline. So just as it sits, it's going to go back in the front end. I'm going to go ahead and pop all this back in, and we'll go from there. Alright, here we be. Kind of cheating using my stand for the lift. I've made a straight fitting. I've got that kind of sitting down along in the bottom. And I'm going to slowly lift this up, get everything in place, double check, see if I like the way that went. At the end result, I'm going to have to make a little tab or something that I can weld to this. And 180 degrees from that, another one. Like I said, every car is different. Normally they will pop right in, but this old Cadillac, yeah, a little offset. We still got it. Little fabrication. Pretty much anything you do is going to take some kind of a slight fabrication. So we'll put this all in place and we'll keep on going. All right, finally progress. Anyway, we got that laying down there, the lower pieces and the upper pieces, everything lined up. The airline is actually inside of here. I got it coming through. The old shock hole was perfect size and diameter. The way this frame is designed inside, not the best picture, but no, I could not use the mounting bolt. So what I'm going to do is simply scab a little metal tab here and about 180 off on this side to the frame. Lock it in place. The lower end will do its thing, but I want to make sure this thing never pops out. And those cups do wrap around the factory molding and the shape of metal on this thing anyway. Bear with me. I'm going to put the brake calipers back together and whatnot, get that set up. And I'm actually going to run a little air test on this thing before I get everything completely reassembled. Just give it a quick soap and air pressure. Just a small test for the lines and whatnot on this end of them at the wheels. Just make sure everything's holding before it's 100. That way we ain't tearing it all back apart if we do have an issue. All right, next section. Actually got it on the ground. This baby is right low. Anyway, long story short, I'm kind of iffy about that cross member. Is about roughly maybe 3/4 of an inch off the ground. We're gonna try to give it maybe at least a minimal of 1 inch. I got a rule of thumb, man. It's got, even if it had an air leak blown out, I like these things to at least be able to move. And the ass end, or the back, excuse my French, looks good, nice and low. We're gonna go ahead and get this pile of parts assembled with the dumps, bumps, everything else. Wire, the hot wire on the relays, love those things. Got to be done right. I've got the trunk halfway decent. Now we can cut a couple holes, and we're gonna run. I normally use like a vacuum line as a grommet, wrap it around the edge of the hole, split it down the middle. I'll get that in the video too. But yeah, this thing's riding pretty low. I'd say about 3 inches, 3.5 inches roughly. And we're gonna go ahead and work with that for now. But I'm gonna get my boy out here to take a look, get the final approval. If he likes that, we'll go ahead and roll with it. But preferably, I would like to get it up maybe 1 inch in the front side. But there you go. Matter of fact, let me show you how these lines turned out. They had a straight shot right down the old hole. But we are going to grommet and tape this all up. I don't want it rubbing and prematurely popping a hole in it. Keep it away from your exhaust manifolds and exhaust pipe so it don't overheat and melt. Other than that, rock it. All right, on to the next components. We went ahead and ran the air lines all the way down the frame, whatnot. Yeah, I think we're gonna eventually tear this thing off the frame and redo. But we ran our line kind of as tight as we could. Zip ties at least minimal every couple feet. I'm gonna clip these tips off. I just wanted you to be able to notice where they're at and whatnot, and then the lines run up simply through there and then through that hole. But we are gonna take a piece of vacuum, split it, use it as a grommet. Same on that side. Try to have the lengths on these lines the same so the air volume factors in, and distance, size, all that crap. There you go. Lines are ran basically both down there, and yeah, you can't put enough zip ties, so it don't matter. This side was a little close to the exhaust, but not bad. We still got about 3 inches, so we're looking good. Bear with me. I'm gonna go ahead and drop this thing down, test these out with a air fitting, and see what we like. All right, here we go again. Chromed out, man. Anyway, not fully complete on the setup here. We've got our hoses in there, which we want to set up a grommet on all 4 holes for the lines that come through. Straight shots up off the bags in the rear, and the lines run all the way to the front on the other ones. So are at a really good angle. I'm very comfortable with the way they ran. They got kind of a straight shot. We're gonna run the power wire for the supply. We're gonna run a relay setup on these pumps, and there's the other line right there. This thing does sit pretty low on the ground. Actually, it's kind of sitting on the forks of the lift with 3-inch extensions right now, so it's sitting high. Right here, we got our setup. We actually might put a 90 on our pressure switch, which is on the very bottom of the tank, kind of a tight squeeze. 90 that out. And this is basically going to line for like the front. And then right here, we're going to put another T and set up another valve. But I think we're going to angle it both ways. Save a little bit of room, because I think the fenders on each side are going to end up about here. We just kind of line up what we got with what we got. I think we'll be all right. So I'm going to keep on moving. And wiring, I know it seems kind of weird, but I think we got a 9 wire on this one, I believe. 4 pump up, 4 dump. one main power lead, and it's all positive triggered system. And we'll set it all up with relays and whatnot for the pumps. Take some of that off the pressure switch anyway. Anybody that knows those knows you can get it to work directly, but it will eventually burn up the switch if you do. So there you go. Bear with me. I'll keep on going. Alright, we are now building some simple brackets. Nothing fancy, honestly. Just something to mount this thing, make a couple good grounds. We'll be using bolts on it. I ran out of hard fittings. I'd like to do all this in hard fittings. Honestly, I wouldn't mind changing it so we got bam, 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 4 in a row. But as what we got. Got to get this thing mobile tomorrow. So what we're going to do is set it up just like this. Set the tank right here at an angle. If we can hook to all the lines. And then we'll start out with that big old bag of electrical stuff. But yeah, we'll get back to it. We'll build these couple brackets. Drill those pieces. Mount that up. Didn't want to make a long video on just putting valves on and whatnot. We'll just show you the end outcome, but I probably should go over. Now these valves, basically you got to give it access. When you trigger this, it's going to open up and air it up, and the output is right here at a T right here. Now this one is the output. It's got a little muffler piece on the end to kind of adjust the airflow exit. Now that would be for, say, for instance, for the front or the passenger front. And now this at the T is all aired up as well. Trigger this one and it'll let the air come out this T. Hit the dump. This is the dump, and the X is over here. Do pay attention. There are arrows on these. Look in the middle of the screen. That will be the flow of the air. So make sure you get those right, or this will not work correctly. Flow of the air. But this is pretty basic. I would like to hardline it. Bear with me. I'll keep going. And we will be swapping this out where I can get some new pictures, maybe a short video, and show you some action. I'd like to add a second tank as well. We're going to see how it performs with one, and we'll go from there. Bear with me. Alright, on to the next. We're going with the wiring. This is like a stereo color wiring. Now this is a 9-wire strand. So the blue wire is going to be the hot wire, the power, full time, to supply the switch box with power. These are the outputs. And if you notice, one line is clear and the other one has a stripe, just like speaker wires. And you can actually do it. The purple and the green go to the back. The whites and grays go to the front. And you got a pump and a dump on each. And then the supply line, which is blue. Now this came where you kind of route it yourself, set it up, everything. I can go side to side, front, back, seesaw, pancake. But depends on the switch patterns. These are all duals. So the middles are the hots. We're going to wire this from scratch. We're going to have dumps and pumps. So both pumps will be on one side, both dumps will be on the other. Keep in mind, now when you click this like this, it's going to power up the switch to this side. Going down does the opposite. Going up does the lower side. So we're going to wire this manually, just out of knowledge I have. So we'll keep on going. I'm going to film this. I wish I could do this, but man, I don't want to make a video that's 87 hours long. There you go. All right, good morning. Late night, we got a bunch done, but anyway, long story short, this is basically a relay, a healthy one, and this is the supply line that goes up to the battery. We actually ended up running that under with the line, the air line. It runs all the way up here. I got to move it slightly, but this is that same wire. We're going to connect it to this 100 amp breaker. I like breakers because if they pop, they do this. You reset them, bam, back on. This is the auto pop. This would be the supply, which would go directly to the battery. Make sure you got a good little run where it can't rub through, because this is unfused for that foot of wire or so. But after this, if anything goes wrong back there, it pops. Back on our other end. Okay, this is that battery supply. This is the output. This will go to the actual pumps when it kicks on. But let's go ahead and go over underneath this tank. That is the basically the pressure sensor. When it hits about 200 psi, most of the time they're labeled, it will trigger, and I'll show you in a second. One of these will take a positive trigger, and it runs through. That'll be hot at all times, off the key anyway. And this will be the output. So when that little sensor stops putting out, it stops putting out to this, which will shut down this relay for the pumps. So it stops at a certain pressure. And now there are adjustable ones, and there are preset 220, 160, kind of whatever you want. So set it wherever you want. Keep in mind, don't want to run it too long. These little pumps ain't designed for nothing crazy. All right, we heat shrinked and soldered the eyelet supply, or the supply over here, the outlet over here. And basically, I took the crimp ends, I crimped them, but also I threw some solder in there. And then we're going to throw one more end on this side, slide that heat shrink over that so it looks like that as well. And then we got everything looking good. All right, just flipped everything on. We have our battery, which I just switched. This supply, this is the output to these two pumps. This hot wire goes through the pressure switch on the bottom. When it hits the 200, it's shut off. The white comes out of the pressure switch to trigger the main relay. This is a ground. I noticed on this one we had to add a ground to the other side of the relay. So the hot supplies to the pressure switch. The white returns from the pressure switch. And you can make these any colors you want. It's just the way I did it. And then the two come out of the main relay for the pumps. And it should shut off when it hits 200 psi. But we're testing it out right now. And we're going to see when it stops, but it should be good to go. We did end up mounting our main breaker right here. Just simply connects on one of them extra battery terminal setups. And then the other wire runs to the back, which we're going to be re-zip tying a few things on that, and making it good to go so it doesn't fall off, rub on the ground, screw things up. So we're testing this out right now. If I had a gauge, I could tell you where it was at, but solely relying on the pressure switch at this point. All right, we just did a pre-test, grounded one side of the dump and hit the other with the trigger of the positive, just to test it out, make sure she's holding air. This is all the way up with that kit. All right, we are just wrapping up. We got to button up all of our wiring, make it look good. Everything's situated. The pumps, dumps, pumps working, pressure switch is working. We got a couple more little buttoning up items to do. And I am wiring the switch box. If you notice, the whole center row is reds. And then the black stripes on these wires represents the ups, and the plain with no stripes is the down. So if you push that switch up, it actually hits the bottom contacts, and vice versa. Put your switch down, it's the top contacts. So we got front and back wired up right now, and I'm slowly going through. I'm going to add side to side. You can wire this how you want, but let me go ahead and show you what we got. And I'm going to be mounting this box, actually. This is just temporary, but we hit it, and she's pretty hot, actually. Oh yeah. Well, bear with me. We'll keep on going. The front's working too. Getting a little low on air, don't mind. But it'll bump back up. I got the motor running to charge the battery while I'm doing this because it definitely takes it out of it. There you go, bear with me. I'll continue the rest of the video. Oh, just playing around. Got our little air system just wired and fired. Boom. Oh. Oh. Boom. Even kinda hot. Woo! All right, give me the left or the right side. Keep going. Hold it. All right. Now when you hit this side, hold it all the way. Okay, bring the front up. Hold it a little longer. Okay. Go ahead and bring the back up. Again. One more time. Drop it. All the way. All the way on the front. Thanks for watching, guys. The air system on the old 80s, maybe 82 Cadillac. Not sure. Somewhere right there.